Hello and welcome to our module on clean and green technology for a sustainable future. My name is Yasar Jarrar. I am the Managing Director of the Posterity Institute and a professor at the Hult International Business School. Before we start defining the objectives of this module, let me mention a few things about technology and its impact because so far you have learned a lot of the negative impact and potential of climate change. Now we have climate adaptation, and we have climate mitigation issues. And all of these areas, from adaptation to mitigation, can be boosted by technology. We are entering today a world that is technologically driven. Our world today is shaped from everything we do in our lives to things we eat, to how we treat our health, to education by technology. Of course, the biggest issue is artificial intelligence, but there's much more technologies that are happening. We're living an age of technological revolution, the age of what we call the age of discoveries. Technological advances are helping us think through how we can solve one of the biggest problems around the world, from trying to treat diseases to the issues we lived with COVID 19, and we saw how fast we were able to produce vaccines and deploy them. And we're hoping the same technological power can be now focused on climate action. This is where the idea of clean technology comes from. In this module, we will discuss a few things about clean technology. We will first of all define what it is, look at the areas where clean technology can help. We will define the different types of technologies because it works in very different ways. Some of it can help us remove harm, some of it can help us live more sustainably. We will talk about innovations and how these innovations help us propel more technologies. But most importantly, it will give us a very strong belief about the potential of technology moving forward and the need for investment. So, for a start, we need to think about technology, how it affects our life. Today, every single one of us deals with technology daily. Some of us don't think of ourselves as IT people, but we deal with our mobile phones, we deal with our computers, our cars, our fridges in the house are part of technology because they're connected now with the Internet of Things if we want to. Satellites, the TV we watch, we deal with technology more than 200 times per day. So let us start by thinking, what are these technologies? How does technology integrate into our lives? Health, education. Think of the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, when it comes to health, education, food, life above, over the land, life under the seas. What are these technologies? How do they impact the environment? Have we ever stopped to think how every single thing we use impacts the environment when we charge our mobile phone, when we drive the car? Let's think about the technologies we live with. Let's think through the areas that they harm the environment or could benefit the environment. And let's just draw a map of the current state of our technologies in our lives and how they are linked to our climate. Now we're going to start thinking through, what does clean technology mean? What does it mean for a technology to be green or clean? We use the words interchangeably: clean technology, green tech, clean tech. You will hear the many different terms. A technology could help us remove carbon dioxide or other harmful gases from the air. That's clean. It helps us clean the world. A technology could help us produce better, produce our production line, improve productivity. A technology could help us take out waste or recycle waste. Some technologies help us reuse. So technologies can be green as long as they can take out negative impact on the environment. That's how we define it in a very broad term. We don't want to limit this because, as you will see, there are many, many different types of technologies. Some of them capture CO2 from the air, others are in pure chemicals. So any technology that helps us clean our environment, sustain resources, reuse them, and be able to, as we said, the definition of sustainability from day one, that will be able to help us meet the needs of the present while preserving the needs for the future generations, is a green and clean technology. Now, this is a very, very fast moving environment. So by the time you watch this course and then maybe you attend another course, you will find that these things have been changing very fast. You will find new technologies. You will find artificial intelligence is being used differently, satellite data and images. You will find sensors, Internet of Things. So keep watching this space very carefully. You know, the rate of change in technology since the 50s and 60s was following Moore's Law, which was every 2 years, more or less, microchips can double in speed. So we were doubling the rate of change in technology every 2 years. Today, with artificial intelligence and the wave we live in, technology is doubling its computing capacity every 3.4 months. This is a huge change. So keep watching this space and always keep looking out for whatever we call green, clean technology. So let's think about technology now and how it all started. First of all, let's agree that technology is good. Technology is what helps us as humans develop. The development we lived, we call them industrial revolutions since the 18th century, 19th century. The life we live today is markedly better than the life our ancestors lived. Today we live longer, healthier. Sometimes it feels like more stressful, but today we have managed to double the life expectancy from only 100 years ago. This is all because of technology. In the 18th century and 19th century, humans invented the steam engine. And with the steam engine, it changed life. Everything in our life changed. Benefits. We were able to travel. We were able to take our goods. We were able to create tractors to improve farming, improve the yield. That is positive. It improved our life. And then electricity helped us connect, see things better, connect equipment, create new technologies. And then the third industrial revolution when the computers were introduced into our lives. So every time technology had a leap, which we call industrial revolutions, we had a whole change to the human life, increasing human life expectancy, improving healthcare, improving the way we eat, and giving us a boost for development. So we've had so far 3 industrial revolutions, and the 4th one has just started. Today is day 1, as we call it, for the 4th industrial revolution. The first one was around the steam engine and everything that it had to do with globalization starting there. The second one was around the production lines and the electricity coming into our lives. The third one was in the 60s when computers came into our lives. And these are just rough estimations, but please do deep dive in the industrial revolutions. And the 4th one now is where biology and technology are meshing together, producing the 4th industrial revolution. Now, in this 4th industrial revolution, we have a lot of things to look forward to. However, let me tell you the story again, going back to the first industrial revolution and how technology helped improve our lives but had a lot of externalities. So every single time we improved aspects of our life, we used technology for the better, we consumed more resources. When we improved the yield from farming and we had tractors helping us plow the farms, we were reducing the yield and the quality of the earth, the soil. These are depletable resources. When we invented or discovered electricity, we were able to produce this and light up, but then we required a lot of fossil fuels to keep this going, which produced a lot of emissions. So every single time we produced a new technology that helped us live better, there were externalities. There were things happening to our earth in terms of depleted resources, recycling and waste, and slowly but surely, unfortunately, these things piled up. Until we reached the point where now we have global warming. We talk about everything you've heard in this module. And that is where technology had what we call the negative externalities of technology. So as much as we think of technology as a positive thing in our lives, there are externalities that have started influencing our climate. Our climate is the air we breathe, the water we drink, the resources we use. For example, the mobile phone we all use and cherish and love, and everybody has a mobile phone now. And there is a point in time where mobile phones will far exceed the number of humans on Earth. Every single mobile phone has 32 elements in it. Some of them very rare earth metals. Some of these elements have to be able to produce 1 gram, you have to have tons of another element and distill and reduce. Can you imagine the resources being consumed just to produce 1 mobile phone? Other things like Bitcoin and all the cryptocurrencies. Every time you mine them, you are using a lot of energy because somebody needs to cool these servers. Cooling these servers and the mining and the energy required for the mining is unbelievable. You know, today there are rough estimates that the mining of the cryptocurrencies around the world is consuming as much energy as the whole of Argentina, 45 million people. Plus, there's the artificial intelligence today. Artificial intelligence and data farms and data servers will require unbelievable amount of cooling. In fact, there are talks now that actually to achieve the goals set by tech firms for artificial intelligence, we need more energy than the world actually produces now. We're looking at alternatives. They're looking at alternatives, nuclear. How do we produce all this energy to keep feeding these data centers and cooling them? So these are all negative externalities of technology. And the most obvious one of all is what happens to all these machines that we buy, computers, laptops, phones, because you end up consuming them and every year there's a new model and we throw them away. And this is becoming a huge problem globally called electronic waste. So these negative externalities now, first of all, technology has caused a lot of electronic waste. Technology has caused a lot of spike in requirements of electricity, and technology to be produced, and the hardware requires a lot of resources. So these are the negative externalities. So how can technology play the flip side and become part of the solution, not part of the problem? So let us talk about the positive side of technology now, because there are fantastic innovations that are now starting to grow very fast. Now, some of these areas where we talk about innovation go back to the law of diffusion of innovation. And we all know that law that says any innovation, if adopted by 10% of the population, doesn't make a real impact. Because these are the early adopters, these are the niche people. These are the people who love technology, who are willing to try new things. These are the people who queue to get the latest mobile phone. When innovation spreads to about more than 15%, then we talk about the diffusion of innovation. And when the diffusion of innovation happens, we see an increase, exponential increase. And that's when technology can start taking a hold and showing real impact. Think about EV cars. There's a lot of debate about electronic cars, but electric cars help us reduce the use of fossil fuels, which help reduce the harmful emissions. At one point, when electric cars become much more abundant, there will be a real impact from these technologies on our daily lives and in terms of emissions. Think of new technologies. You're going to hear new terms like direct air capture. There are technologies now that can capture carbon dioxide from the air and store it. There are technologies that are being used now to capture carbon dioxide from energy production and oil companies and store it back in the earth. It's called carbon capture and storage. In fact, carbon capture and storage now is moving to areas where carbon capture usage and storage. So we're using that CO2 to do different things. There are areas where we are actually using technology to help us make our routes and driving routes and shipping routes even more efficient. For example, there are ships in the sea now who are using less fuel to take products from A to Z because they're using satellite technology, being able to understand the resistance of air and water and reduce and optimize their routes. So you can see how technology starts to becoming positive force. People are using satellite technology now to identify how to best fight diseases in farms and reduce the use of pesticides, reduce the use of certain elements by being able to target certain areas by looking at the farm in its whole in totality through satellite data. So there's a lot of uses for technology these days. Data alone that we're collecting and through artificial intelligence will help us make so many links and understand why if we do certain things it will impact something else. So technology, although it caused some negative externalities, has a much bigger impact on the positiveness that it could provide us. The potential for technology to be a real solution for a lot of our climate change mitigation and adaptation is phenomenal. And that's what we want to look at in more detail, thinking through clean tech and green tech. So let us take a moment now to think through an activity and think together about these technologies. What are the things that are coming up today? What are new technologies that are helping us adapt? What are the technologies that have the potential? And don't forget the idea, which is a very famous saying from Amazon. We're still in day one. We're still in minute one, hour one, day one of this technological revolution. So when we talk about green and clean tech, we're not talking about things that are abundant only. We're talking about the new nascent ideas, the fantastic uses, when people start seeing open data from NASA and using that satellite data for different ways. So we're talking about a room, an age of discovery. There's so much room now to create, to learn, and potentially opportunities to be part of this absolutely growing market, which will be in the trillions in the very near future. Now we're about to start looking at technologies and green technologies in much more detail. It's very important to know the types of green technologies and clean technologies because these types affect our life in different ways. And they all have the potential to improve many things in our lives in different ways. Keep in mind, green and clean technology is something that helps us either reduce harm or do things better that have less impact on our environment, or actually remove the harm that we have caused to the environment somehow already.